Hey everybody, welcome to Take 5. And today I'm going to try to talk at least a little bit about a topic that is difficult to cover in 5 minutes. In fact, it's impossible to cover in 5 minutes, but I want to touch on a few high points of it, particularly around some of the issues that I think are a little too focused on by some people in terms of their expectations of investigators. So what is the topic? Credibility, assessing credibility. Now, like I said, I could talk all day about assessing credibility and all the pieces that go into that and the things we need to do. I want to talk about just a couple of sort of core points here when it comes to credibility assessments. Investigators, particularly when they're doing the kind of investigation where they will need to ultimately make the decision, make a finding and justify that finding. So we're talking more about workplace investigations, although even in a regulatory investigation, you're still judging to a certain degree credibility as it will inform your investigation. So credibility is important. It's an important part of any investigation, and it really needs to be done well. And one of the first things I always say is let's shift away from this idea that, the person looked up and to the left, the person shifted in their chair. This idea that we're going to look at their nonverbal communication and that's going to inform us as to the person's credibility. Will it give us some interpretation of their mannerisms potentially? Is it something that might tell us something in our gut? Maybe. But the reality here is we're not playing poker, right? We're not looking for the tell because, not to say that that isn't possible and not to say that that isn't something we could do. It isn't something we need to be focused on. When we're conducting workplace investigations and regulatory investigations and we're interviewing people, it's about the questions we ask. Right. It's about getting into the details. And I've talked about this before about how the details matter, but it is about, asking questions and getting answers and comparing those answers to other evidence that you have, right? Asking yourself questions about plausibility. Is the substance of what the person said plausible? Would a reasonable person in a similar set of circumstances do that? Or would a reasonable investigator believe that? Is this person speaking in a manner and sharing information in a manner that's plausible, that's reasonable? Is the person shifting context? That's another one. A telltale sign is a person who will, say that, yeah, sure, that kind of happened, but not the way they say it happened. That sometimes, that could be honest as well. The one thing I will say about credibility is don't let one thing that you happen to observe in dealing with a person be the thing you hang your hat on to say they're credible or not credible. It's about looking at everything they say, what they say, what it compares to or how it compares to the other information that you have. So important to be cautious when making credibility assessments to make sure that those assessments are based on a variety of data points. So, as I said, plausibility of what they said, shifting context is another one. Sometimes people who are accused of something will spend a lot more time, often right at the beginning of an interview, trying to discredit the person who's pointing the finger at them. This also can be a telltale sign that a person may not be credible. Now, is all of this, is there an equation, 2 + 2 = 4? Absolutely not. When assessing credibility, it's nothing like an equation. It is about a nuanced assessment, a nuanced analysis of the information you get from all sources, all the evidence, looking at where what somebody says to you or shares with you fits into the body of evidence that you've collected. So of course you're going to be comparing the things they say not only against other statements, but you're going to be comparing it against other documentary evidence perhaps. So these are the things that you need to focus on when you're looking at credibility. And of course we could take any one of these things and expand it and make it quite a conversation. But for now, my message here is to don't worry about whether or not you can perceive a person is being deceitful. There's been lots of studies that have been done, that generally will tell you that, nobody is particularly good at detecting deceit. people can be very good at being deceitful. It's all about making judgments based on as many data points as you can gather, and not worrying about whether the person shifted in their seat, crossed their legs, looked away, covered their mouth, all of those things. Do they play some minor role in all of this? Yes, perhaps they do, but a very, very minor role. These are not the things. Imagine writing a report and assessing someone's credibility and saying something like, well, they shifted in their seat, and when they said things, they always looked down and they wouldn't look me in the eye. Another massive myth about, whether a person's being deceitful or truthful is whether they'll look you in the eye. A huge myth. So there's so much to unpack around the issue of assessing credibility. And these are just some thoughts that, just to kind of get the conversation rolling. Give us some feedback. Let's hear what you think. When you see this video posted, wherever it happens to be posted, wherever you see it, ask some questions, share your thoughts. Let's get a dialogue going. So with that, a little bit about credibility, and I'll leave it at that. And again, thank you so much. We'll see you next time on Take 5.